Hey guys, Marmalade here, and how about that view, huh? I happen to be near the last week of my road trip. Today is actually September 10th, and I have been on the trail. I was going to say on the road and on the trail since July 18th. And so by the time I get home, it'll almost be exactly 2 months. And I have made the turn. I was in Idaho, in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, for about 10 days, as you guys probably saw, and decided to go per Sally. I'll give Sally the credit for this, so I was staying with. I went east quite a bit, and there was so much smoke coming from Canada that I wanted to get away from Coeur d'Alene. But as I got closer and got into Montana, I camped the first night last night by Bozeman at a campground, and it was smokier there than where I was. So it was all blowing west to east. So this morning I got up really early, went into Yellowstone for my first time, saw Old Faithful, and just checked it out. Saw some animals on live elk on the road, things like that. Got out of there, and now I'm all the way just south of Provo, Utah, and I think it's called Sheep Creek um, Dispersed Camping. And I apologize if there's some wind noise. My back's to it, so hopefully you can hear me fine. But there's a decent amount of wind off and on. I was hoping this rock would keep my pages in place. But so if you ever want to come here, yeah, look up Sheep Creek Dispersed Camping. It's just outside of Provo. And I did, as promised, I wanted to make a video now that I've had some time to reflect from this summer's backpacking trips. I may have a quick overnighter near home, but I probably won't. I don't know. So this is kind of a reflection of really my summer backpacking trips and how it kind of changed my mindset. I did turn on trail. If you watch my videos on the JMT at BVR, I turned 62, and I still feel like I'm a really good strong hiker for my age, and that I can still do big miles and things like that. But really, my perspective completely changed this summer, and I want to go over it and talk about it. And I want to get your opinion if this has happened to you too as you've gotten older, and how you've changed things. I've already heard from a few of you, and you guys are right on point with what to do and how to change as you get older. So I want to just kind of reflect on my summer, and maybe this will help other people. And like most of my talking videos, this will be kind of long, but it's a reflection, and maybe it'll be interesting to some people. But let's start with what I planned this summer. So I took a little over like took 2 months and 2 weeks off this summer. And if you guys watched, I did the High Sierra Trail. It's 60 miles from Sequoia National Park, uh, from west to east. You finish on Whitney, and it's another 11 miles down to the portal. So that's 71 miles. I did that 6 days. Um, then I went up to, well, let's just go by backpacking trip. So then about 2.5, 3 weeks later, I had planned the John Muir Trail, starting and going to Nobo from Cottonwood Pass, hit Whitney again. It was going to be twice within 3 weeks, and then go all the way to Yosemite. So let's start with the High Sierra Trail. I did it in 6 days. It's an average of 11.8 miles a day. And I've said in my videos, I was doing 24 to 28 miles a day on the PCT last summer, finishing it. And so I thought, well, 11.8, it's higher elevation. The Sierra are very hard compared to, you know, um, I feel like for every mile you do in Sierra is like 1.5, 2 miles on the regular PCT at lower elevation. But I thought I could do that. But I did get on trail as always, not in the great shape. I tried to hike a lot, but with um, the heat and all of the West Coast, it was just too hard to do too many miles and train as much as I wanted to. But so what I learned there was not to push myself so hard. And I didn't think 11.8 miles a day on that trail would be too much, but there was so much elevation gain, so much high elevation, that for me, not having my trail legs, it was very hard. I should have gone 7 to 8 days. That would have been, if I did 7 days, that would have been maybe 8 to 9 miles a day, something like that. But I should have gone a little slower. Almost everybody out there was going slower. And also, it was very hot, and just a lot of climbing. So the combination just made it really tough on me. And also, then the next one was 20 days on the John Muir Trail, 18 hiking and 2 zeros. And if you guys notice, something happened to me that's never happened to me once anywhere, including the Sierra, of course, is I got elevation sickness. So I did, the first day was 14 and a half miles from Cottonwood Pass to Rock Creek. Started feeling crappy. Well, actually, we got there the night before to camp at Cottonwood Pass at 10,000 feet and acclimate. And I started having a massive headache on the way up in the car. And I felt horrible. I didn't say much. I figured it'd just pass. And sure enough, it didn't pass. And I felt horrible and got worse as I got, to camp. And my buddy Dave and I both got touches of that, and I think also just shocking our bodies, just all of a sudden going high elevation and pushing ourselves too hard. So I also picked too many miles per day on that average, but as it turned out, I never got to do more than one day. So the next day, thankfully, Jay's wife met us at Cottonwood Pass. We had to hike the 14 and a half miles back, but so I've become more experienced with that. And then impromptu, that wasn't because I was supposed to be on trail for 20 days and ended up only being two. I had all that time free. And so I ended up going with a new friend, Tracy, and she suggested it. And we decided to go do about a week on the JMT. So I did that. I took Diamox and I felt fine. After 2 or 3 days, I was acclimated and did fine. But even then, I felt like I just I don't know. I learned a lot about myself. We all hike differently than each other. We all hike different. We can have 20, 60-year olds and we can all hike different paces. Some have bad knees and can't hike at all. Some are ultra athletes, and most of us are in the middle. And I know for me, once I get on trail long enough, I get my trail legs on, I lose a little bit of weight, I lean down, and then I start to go, and I don't have that. I guess the main thing that I got from all these trips was just more soreness and just struggle. I'm able to do all this stuff, but just was seemed harder to go up climbs and in elevation than it ever has before. And realistically, obviously, we're all getting older. And I started this sport. I was about 53 or four, and I'm 62 now. So I've done it for about 8 years. But it's incrementally gotten harder and harder. And I just kind of had an epiphany this year about how I need to change the way I hike in most of my trips. I'm not saying never, never, I'll never not do a through hike. I would really love to do the CDT. If anybody's got some extra money they don't want, send it my way, because nowadays to do a through hike, it's costing so much money. You have to be gone. If you were able to be successful, it's about 5 to 6 months, and you've got to pay everything on trail, all your bills at home, and have some left over when you come home. So I really want to do the CDT, but I don't know how I'm going to, the way things are going, the way I'm going to save money. But anyway, uh, so let's go over what I realized. The first thing is I realized that because I was a through hiker, and then eventually it took me 5 years to do the PCT. But every year, I know it wasn't an actual through hike because it took me 5 years. But when I was on trail, I felt like a through hiker. I was with the bubble, and I'm through hiking. I'm doing big miles every day, even though it's a section hike. I'm hiking like a through hiker, and I realized that now that I've got the PCT done, that I have had a hard time shutting that off. That I've done over 2,600 miles just on the PCT alone, and I've molded my body and mind to through hike. And so what happened was, one of my first mistakes is getting on, the High Sierra Trail or the John Muir Trail and hiking like I'm through hiking, like I'm on a time crunch and I've got to get to Canada before winter and all that stuff that you do. And I realized that I've got to get that imprint on my brain out of there. If I ever do another through hiker, or at least I can look back on it. But I just realized that I'm not hiking the right way, and what that means, and what number two is, that I stopped two, well, three things. The first one is hiking like a through hiker when you're not through hiking. Even though the John Muir Trail, when you're doing, is it considered a through hike, I'm talking about really long distance, and I know for some people that's the longest hike they'll ever do, but I don't look at it that way. There's really no time crunch unless you've got to get back to work or something in real life. But the second thing was, because I'm pushing myself hard like I'm through hiking, uh, I was much more sore after every day, and even just enduring pain and discomfort all day. Not pain like an injury, but just pushing myself harder than I needed to, and due to pushing too many miles per day because I am hiking like I'm through hiking. And so I realized that, and I told you, as the pain and the discomfort and the difficulty gets a little harder and harder and harder because I'm pushing miles. The third thing is the fun meter is going down and down and down. And so I know in the High Sierra Trail, it's one of the most beautiful trails I've ever hiked in my life, but I didn't enjoy a lot of it. I enjoyed the sights and some of the campsites and the people I met, but I wasn't able to be fully present and really enjoy it because I was just pushing myself too hard. And it's like, oh, I got to get up early, got to get going. And I like to camp, so I could have slept in later. I always leave really early, but that's the way I am. I am that way in real life. But I like to get a good campsite, and I enjoy camping. So because I'm pushing extra miles, I'm having to get up extra early. It's freezing cold, and and then just hiking more hours because I've got all these miles to do. Where if I would have on the High Sierra Trail instead of 11.8, so basically 12, if I had scaled it back to 8 or 9, I could start an hour later and get done an hour earlier. It's like 3 to 4 miles less, and still have the same effect and the same campsites and all that, but yet enjoy it more. So I learned a lot about that and myself. And I want to make a kind of an addendum to that. When I picked 11.8 miles on the High Sierra Trail, like I said, I was doing 24, 28 miles a day once I got in shape on the PCT. But I know hiking and a lot of people, the PCT is hard. Is hard. A lot of it is very difficult. But when you're in shape, you can do 24 to 28. Even on hard days, I had some days I was doing 5, 6,000 feet of climb and almost that going down to. But it's just a different kind of hiking compared to the Sierra. So what I didn't factor in was the elevation, the rocks, and the roughness. Now you have that here and there on the PCT, but there's a lot of the PCT that's smooth and you can cruise, even if it's not your whole day. It's a lot of it. So I guess I just in my mind, I simplified it all and just okay. Well, I do 24 to 28 on a regular PCT. I can do 11.8, but you have to factor in that where you're hiking, the elevation, of course. If you're high elevation or not. If you do 3,000 foot of climb, over 6 miles, and you're only at 2,000 feet, that's not very hard compared to 11,000 feet. So I oversimplified it. Just I can do 11.8, but I didn't really look at my daily elevation and what I was going to occur. I knew my day two was going to be bad over and tough over Kauai Pass, but I bit off way too much. I should have gone halfway in camp, but I like I said, for some of us, doing any part of the PCT is hard, but a lot of the regular part of the PCT is not overly hard for me, and so that's where I made a mistake in saying, okay, I could do almost 12 miles a day in the Sierra and not in shape, and I paid for it. So, what is the solution? I think some of them are very easy and obvious, and that is, of course, less mileage. Pick something that I feel I can do. If you're through hiking, you start out slow anyway, and then you build up into it. So that's easy. Choose a trail or a section that doesn't have so much climb, so much steepness, so much roughness. Depending on, how many feet of elevation you're doing per day into your miles, and just picking a trail that's more friendly and that you would enjoy more, and that you can handle. And then, of course, I just thought about, not just picking less steepness, but elevation, looking at your elevation. I know eastern states don't have giant mountains, so, you might do 2,000 feet of climb, but it might be from 1,000 feet to 3,000 feet. Where out here, even in the desert where I live in San Diego, like Mount San Jacinto is almost 11,000 feet. And on the trail, you're at 9,000 feet. And if you don't go to the peak. And so there's mountains that are very big there. So, picking hikes that are just not only not as steep, but not so high elevation. Another way to make things easier for yourself is to go ultralight. Now, you don't have to take it insanely crazy light, but I've gone pretty ultralight. It does cost money. Tents are, six, seven, $800 as opposed to maybe $300 or $400. But as we get older, go lighter. I think I've always said two things. It's about the weight and the size of things. And then I'll add a third thing that I've really been preaching lately, and that is be selective on what you bring. We we even on a weekend trip, yeah, it's only 3 days, so sometimes I bring my chair, my ultralight chair, but I don't have a regular chair. I have an ultralight chair. But be smart about what you bring. If you don't need uh, tons of food or tons of clothes and tons of little, you know, like comfort items that you like, just keep it light and keep it simple. It's less things to carry, of course, less weight, but less things to manage in your pack and take out and do all that stuff. You should see what I bring now. I mean, for a long trip, it's not that much. Also, pick trails and hikes that you really love, because I think doing one that sucks and it's hard is no fun. I've done a couple of those in the last few years, and it's like I love being outside and backpacking, but if it's ugly or it's just crazy steep or rough or not very pretty, then you're not going to want to do it. It's not very inspiring. And added to that is pick a time of year that's the best. Don't pick when it's hot or freezing cold, all that. Pick a time of year that's great. One of the ideas I've verbalized with some of my closer friends is that I'm still going to do backpacking trips, and even if I do the John Muir Trail, the Sierra, I'm just going to do less miles. The John Muir Trail is a very tough trail because if you go slow and you can't get many miles in, you have to carry a lot more weight and food, and the resupplies are very far and few between in some of the areas. So yes, I can go slower and take it easier, but then I take a penalty in weight. So it's always a catch-22 on that. So one of my ideas is, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago when it was my fourth of my 5 years doing the PCT. The year before I got pushed out because of the Dixie Fire closed the national forest in the Sierra and all in California. I got out at Horseshoe Lake, which is about, I don't know, 5 miles before you get to Red's Meadow in Mammoth. And so year four, I got back in there and I was hiking with the Rev. If you follow me, you remember that. And we were hiking for quite a while, and then he eventually got off trail, and I was in a section I can't actually remember, but somewhere in the Sierra, and I was just walking. It was a like always, we're on a side of a hillside, and the trails cut into the hillside, and below me, I'm walking parallel to a creek, and I looked down, and there was this guy by himself standing there fly fishing. He had waders on, was in the river, and it was like a painting. I took a picture of it, and I actually put it in my video for that day. But he's just fly fishing, and I grew up as an only child fishing a lot. I didn't fly fish, but I freshwater fish. But I really want to learn how to fly fish, and I'll probably regular fish too. But then I just, over the since I saw that, and I just kind of re-inspired me to fish as I get older. I've been trying to do active things until I get older, but as I phase into the older years, I thought maybe my idea now is to do regular backpacking trips. But there might be a time when I go up, and I love doing like the Sierra, doing Agnew Meadow, which is by Mammoth, up to Thousand Eye Lake, Ediza Lake, and then back to my car. It's roughly like 3 8 mile days. Just the most beauty you can stack into 3 days that I found. But I think I would like to do a trip once in a while where I go up and set up base camp. Let's say I go to Thousand Eye Lake, set up base camp, and then day two is leaving my base camp there and taking my and go fish and go explore and go up ravines and valleys and maybe go to a peak and explore too. So do some fishing, some hiking, and but not beat myself up too much and kind of rest, but just include fishing into my channel. So what do you think about that? Then after 2 days, pack up, hike to maybe I go to in this scenario go to Ediza Lake and stay there for 2 days. Hike there, and that night or the next day fish and do stuff like that. So and maybe fish along the way. So I want to include some trips like that and go at a slower pace, not so many miles, and absorb and be present to where I am. The through hiker mentality, it takes a lot to be a through hiker and to do it. I'm proud that I was able to finish that trail, but man, it's hard not to keep hiking that way. Just even my local trips on the PCT in San Diego, it's hard not to just go, okay, we got to do 15, and then we got to do 17 tomorrow. We got to get, it's like I don't know why I keep hiking like that, even though I'm not through hiking. If I were to do the CDT, which I would love to do as my dream, then I would hike more like that. I would even then start out slower than I have been in the past because there's no reason to thrash yourself, especially as we know we get older. You can hike yourself into injuries. I've been preaching that ever since I started this channel. Okay, we're getting towards the end, and sorry for all the talking, but I was thinking about, you might want to know, why did I just suddenly make this video? Well, I gave you some reasons why I had kind of an epiphany this summer and a kind of an eye opening. Um, but I always like to be open and honest and transparent and share things with you. Hopefully, most of the videos I make are to not talk about myself, but to help others and hope share information. And sometimes when I share things, I get really great ideas back. So I get a lot of ideas from you guys. I also was thinking, if you see a change in the future years of some of my trips, and maybe there's fishing in there, less miles or things like that, then you'll understand why and why I'm doing it. Um, I think sometimes people that are older feel pressured when they watch young kids hike a ton of miles. And in my case, I was hiking big miles last summer, but that's not necessary. That's not normal hiking. Not normal people do that or even want to do that. I'm phasing into where I'm not enjoying the big miles as much. It is very, I've said this many times. I talked to Hiking Rev, my friend, about this. It's very empowering when you get older and you're able to hike 20 to 28 miles a day. It's just super empowering. And you get in such good shape once you lean down and you get going, that it's like a drug. It's like, I imagine, I've never been a runner. I don't like running. But like runners get that, where they just get stronger and stronger. And I guess that's what it's like. to do a really big day and then the next day not have any soreness and wake up 100%. Sometimes you're tired, but I mean, for the most part, that is so empowering. So I guess I understand it, and I like that feeling. And when I get to that, but it's getting through the pain and the discomfort and the lack of pleasure to get to that point that's hard. And when we all go on weekend trips, we never get our trail legs. We just go there and we're sore after, and we hurt for a couple of days, and then we go back to normal, and then we go out again. So um, hopefully these videos and my thoughts help you guys think about things. You guys that are getting older like me, you can still do the John Muir Trail or do any trail. Just do less miles. You know, you have to carry more. It's a weight penalty in food, but I think you increase on the pleasure level and the enjoyment. So lastly, I do try to pay attention to my body and myself, and I've noticed the change. Maybe it's because I don't get to do as much backpacking as I want. I probably do more than a lot of you guys, but it's because I live near the trail, the PCT, and I also arranged my life for this, but to be able to hike more. But I don't hike as much as I want or as long a distance or amount of days in a row as I want. I go out 1 or 2 days, get my fix, and go back to work and that kind of stuff. So hopefully we have all learned from my experience this summer. And like, how has your hikes changed? How have you had to adjust to being older? I know most of my viewers are older, but is it of course, less mileage, shorter trips, less difficulty, trails you're choosing? Is it going lighter, things like that? Like, how have you changed? A lot of people read the comments, so not only will I learn because I read them all and I try to comment to everybody if I can, but it'll help other people. So share what you've done differently, or if you're like me and you're about to, what your plan is. I learn from all of you guys. I share my information and my knowledge and my experience. That helps, but I learn from you guys a lot too. Well, I'll probably be back in another week from this road trip. I'll still have a week or two off before I go back. I never like to go back to work, you know, the day after I get home. So I'm gonna have some time to get settled and everything. But I'm gonna make a lot of changes in my life. I've wanted to do van life for a while. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I'm gonna try to increase making other forms of money besides just my regular job. So I'm working on that. I have a lot going on. So I guess what I'm rambling about is I haven't promoted it much this summer at all. But in order to let me do these things, I do work 2 jobs. But I could really use your help and support. I don't ask all the time, but I do sometimes about ways to support my channel. This will help where I'm going. Where I was getting at earlier is going where I'm going forward when it comes to staying on the road more and being more nomadic and doing the ventures that I've been doing for the last couple of months. And I could really use your help. There's ways that I've never even mentioned this, that I'm now a YouTube partner. So if you go into my channel at the top, you can join. It's the same as basically Patreon. So Patreon's another way. But basically go on there and you can donate. I think it's $1 or $2 up to as much as you want per month. I mean, it's only five. Let's say you donate $5 a month. That's like a cup of coffee. And every single cent I get, I put into a separate savings account for all my activities. And some of it is I'm going to be getting some new equipment and gear to film with. It helps with getting gas and getting to the trips and getting all my backpacking gear, or just saving the money so I have it next summer if I go away for another long trip. So anything you guys can do would really help. Um, so if you go into my YouTube channel, you can become a YouTube partner. If you look at all my links below in the bottom of this video, it has all my links. Just think about it for a while. You can cancel whenever you want. I already have I think I have 12 or 13 patrons have been with me a long time, and I really appreciate you guys. If you do join any of these things, I'll put you at the end of every video in a little screen I have for thanking my patrons. Oh, there's also things like that I never really promote much, but I have merch. If you look down, if you want to get a Marmalade shirt or something, I get a little piece of that. I have an Amazon store. You can go there and buy some of the gear that I use or that I like or believe in, and I get a little piece of that. So if you go to Amazon, it's the same price as if you go there anyway, but it just helps me out, so it doesn't cost you any. It's just the things I suggest, whether it's car camping, backpacking, things that I buy, things like that. Matter of fact, I've got new stuff that I haven't even put on that list yet that I've gotten from this trip, but I'll add that when I can. Well, anyway, if you can't do any of that, the best thing you can do for me is hit a like. Leave a comment if you'd like. I love hearing from you guys. I'll respond to everybody. Um, Subscribe really, really helps me. It puts me out. The liking helps as much as the subscribe, but the liking actually puts me out to more videos once I get a certain number of likes. So if you can like every video, it's free. The subscribing is free. And then if you hit the notification upper right, it'll notify you every time I have a video. And that gives me more views and more likes, and that's how I get paid. So just even liking and watching the video gives me more views, and then I get ad money from YouTube. So that all helps me build a nest egg to get out of the rat race, get on the road, start bringing you more stuff like this. So, anyway, that's it. Thanks for sitting through this whole thing. I know it was long, but I appreciate all of you. And just keep following along. I've got all kinds of activities. The next 2 days, or I should say that the next week, I'll be hitting 2 or 3 national parks. So keep watching and appreciate all you guys, and we'll see you down the road. Bye.